Hello, and welcome to the podcast that must not be named. I am Luke.
I am Melissa.
And we are here at our 5-chap recap, doing chapters 6 through 10 of Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. Get ready, we're going to be opening up the unrestricted section later this episode, but before that, we're going to tell you about the Talons and Tea Leaves chapter, the Boggart in the Wardrobe, the Flight of the Fat Lady, Grim Defeat, and the Marauders Map. Melissa, what just happened in those chapters?
So we start with our friends Harry, Ron, and Hermione on their first day of classes of year 3, where they get to meet Professor Trelawny after they trek through the castle to her tower. After deciding that Harry was going to die soon, they leave divination and head to Hagrid's first class as Care of Magical Creatures, where it's great until Malfoy gets attacked, which is fine by me. Then we head later on that week. Malfoy finally seems slightly recovered, although still in so much pain. And we see Snape in double potions with Slytherin, where not only does Draco make Ron and Harry do all his work, Snape is particularly picking on our friend Neville, who is both round-faced and forgetful. Because of the round forgetful Neville, when we go to Professor Lupin's first Defense Against the Dark Arts class, Lupin chooses him to be the first to help defeat the Boggart, the first of all of the magical creatures that they will be working to learn about in this class. As we continue on in the school year, as we move towards Halloween, Lupin's class soon becomes everyone's favorite, while divination does not, including a run-in with Hermione and her friend Lavender, who may or may not have worried about a soon-to-be-dead baby bunny rabbit. As we move on to Halloween, we have the first Hogsmeade trip, where Harry does not get to join, but Hermione and Ron go off. And while skulking about the castle, feeling sorry for himself, Harry ends up having tea with none other than Lupin. After this, we have the Halloween feast, where, after some formation floating, the Gryffindors head back to their tower, only to find that the Fat Lady had been attacked by Sirius Black. After putting in more restrictions and searching the castle and not finding Black, we soon move on to the first Quidditch match of the year. We head to the first Quidditch match of the year, where the Gryffindors are feeling quite confident, but a little disturbed that they were not playing Slytherin like they expected, but had to match up against Hufflepuff in the pouring rain. Unfortunately for our dear Gryffindor team, the Dementors came, and Harry, having a bit of a Dementor problem, passed out falling off his broom, but not before Cedric Diggory caught the snitch, ending the game for Harry's first loss in a Quidditch match. So as we continue through the year, soon we get to Christmas break, where we have another Hogsmeade trip that Harry does not get to go on until an unexpected visit from Fred and George gives him something called the Marauders Map, which is a map of the entire Hogwarts area and allows Harry to sneak out to Hogsmeade, meeting up with his friends Hermione and Ron. They head off to the 3 broomsticks, where they overhear some interesting information, including that Sirius was not only Harry's godfather, but that he was coming to get Harry, and he was secret keeper, and was the reason why James and Lily Potter were killed.
We are once again joined by one of our favorite team members, our target audience perspective, Lorelai. Hey, how's it going?
Hi.
How are you?
Good.
You all finished up with these 5 chapters again?
Yeah.
Yeah. Overall thoughts on these chapters here?
No.
No? Just nothing. So you didn't read them. Okay, F on the grade.
Prove it.
Well, let's jump into the first chapter, Talons and Tea Leaves. Melissa, what were some of the big points here that we want to get her perspective on?
So it was the first day of school. They got their schedules.
Yes.
Hermione's looked full.
Yes.
Any thoughts on Hermione's full schedule
I
there?
will never be able to do that.
Why not?
In any way. How she did it, we'll never do that.
Why do you say that?
Because Ron's and Harry's looked full as it was. Hermione's with 3 things to do in 1 hour. I would go crazy.
So you would tend to go with the more Ron-style education than the
Yeah.
Hermione-style education. Any particular reason?
Because I stink at school.
Okay, so that's good to know. Thank you for that information. But we go to our first class, and our first class is at the top of the tallest tower in the farthest room in the whatever, and they have to go on a quest just to find the classroom. And then they go to divination. Mm-hmm. Any thoughts about Professor Trelawny and their first attempt at divination class?
She made up a lot of stuff, I feel like.
What do you mean by made up?
Like, she said, "Oh, that's Harry. I'm gonna mess with him a little bit. See what's gonna happen. You know, he might die, and I might be like, haha."
So you think she's fabricating all of this?
Yeah.
Okay. Then we go to, for the afternoon, we have our first Care of Magical Creatures class, which is Hagrid's first class.
Yeah.
What'd you think about that?
I thought it was cool.
Why?
Because I love animals, and I thought the hippogriff sounded pretty awesome. And then Malfoy went in and ruined it.
So you blame Malfoy.
I blame Malfoy.
Hashtag blame Malfoy.
Hashtag blame Malfoy. I can get behind that. Any particular reasons why you're blaming Malfoy?
Because he hates Hagrid, and I love Hagrid, and he doesn't want him to have a good job and do what he loves, and I hate him for that.
So do you think Hagrid's going to be a successful teacher?
No. I think since Malfoy's dad, it's just going to ruin everything.
But would he have been if it hadn't happened with
Yes,
Malfoy?
he would be a really good teacher, I think.
Okay, so back to our hashtag blame Malfoy.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think would make him such a good teacher?
He was just trying to have fun his first class, because he was like, I thought it was funny. The book was funny. And then Malfoy ruined it, and he's like me. He's just like, I don't know what to do now. Everything's falling apart. Like, that'd just be me. And like, hashtag blame Malfoy for everything.
I have seen that happen to new teachers. It's scary.
It definitely seemed like his enthusiasm was there. Like Hagrid was excited to show them something interesting too, and it is pretty unfortunate that it kind of went south on him.
And for the most part, he's got a good relationship with the kids too. They seem to like him, more than others.
Yeah.
So then we get into chapter 7 and it's more school,
Yay.
but it's still the first week. So we get to go to potions. How'd you feel about potions class?
I think Malfoy was just being a drama queen the whole time. Just like, oh no, my life is ruined. Even though I'm rich, and I have a house elf, and everything's falling apart. Oh.
Hashtag first world problems.
No.
So what did you think of Snape and how he was interacting with Harry? It seemed like that was kind of on par per usual, but not so much that, how he was reacting and teaching Neville.
I feel like he was being hard on Neville. Like, he's a shy guy. He doesn't do well in that class, and Snape's just putting more pressure on him and, like, threatening his frog's life and stuff. That's not cool.
Yeah, it seems to be quite bullying, and that's not very good when it's coming from the authority figure in the room. Any thoughts on that other than it sucks?
No, that was the whole thing. It just sucked. The whole thing was terrible.
True. But then we get to go to Lupin's class. How'd that go?
I thought it was pretty cool. I don't know why. When I was listening to the book, I thought that Lupin's first class was more successful than, like, Hagrid's.
Why do you think that?
Because he actually went through his class without, having to go to the hospital wing.
Although there was potential.
Yes.
Can you describe what they learned about?
No.
Okay, so they go through and they're fighting a dangerous creature, a Boggart.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So can you tell us a little bit about that?
It takes the form of whatever you most fear of, and its weakness is laughter. Yeah.
Thoughts on that creature? Is it...
I feel like if I did it, like if it popped up on me, it would be like a clown or something.
How would you make it funny?
I don't know. Probably like making it... I have no clue.
See, I feel like that could be an inherent problem because clowns are supposed to be funny.
Oh.
So
Just normal day-to-day, like, clowns going into your house for, like, birthday parties scared the freak out of me.
But that's my point. Like, if that's what your scary thing is, which you're not the only person in the world with that, trying to make a clown, which is supposed to be inherently funny, but is actually scary, turn it into something funny so that you would laugh at it. I feel like that's what is like a catch-22.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the impossible choice.
I would say so.
That's a good fear, but not really. Because it's a fear.
No, it's a terrible fear. Because now they're making movies of creepy clowns. And
Technically?
all of you guys are like, woohoo! And I'm like, yup.
So you suffer from coulrophobia.
Yes.
The fear of clowns.
Oh,
I won't show you the Google images that popped up.
I just saw.
Well,
Nope.
I didn't try
Well,
to.
stop looking.
Sorry.
wrong with you?
I thought I would just see it, not a disease, but like a fear, not actual clowns pop up.
No, actual clowns. Good luck with that.
Oh.
All right, so then we get into Chapter 8, and Chapter 8 is really about, we have a little bit of the battle between Crookshanks and Scabbers. We get a little bit of their arguments, if you will. How do you feel about those two?
I feel like Crookshanks is just being a normal cat. Like, he wants mice or a rat, and that's what normal cats go to. So, I just feel like he's just being a normal cat.
Okay. Please notice how I'm not looking across the table at Luke, because I don't care what his opinion is. Nope, we're not asking him. We're going to move right on. But then it is the first Hogsmeade trip of the year. It's Halloween. It's the
For the record, cats are garbage.
I really thought
Keep
we could
moving.
get past it. Okay. So anyway.
Do go on.
So anyway, it's the first Hogsmeade trip of the year. We've skipped right from the first week of school to Halloween. That's how fast we move.
I wish it was that fast.
And
in
everybody gets to go. Oh, wouldn't that be great? I'm with you. Blink. 2 months later. I'm in.
school. Wake up next morning.
2 to
happy
1.
Halloween.
We're 2 to 1 over here.
No,
Luke is
you
shaking his
miss
head.
so many things.
I wouldn't miss it.
I would.
I didn't care. Getting closer to summer? Yes, please.
Yeah, big fan of summer. All right. So anyway, Harry doesn't get to go on the trip to Hogsmeade
It sucks.
because
Because everyone's like, oh, I'm going to go to here and here. And Harry's just like, I'm going to be hanging with my teachers. Studying. What's up?
let's have some tea.
Team Crumpets.
How do you feel about tea with Lupin?
I thought it was peaceful. They had a good conversation.
Worth missing Hogsmeade for?
No. I don't think they really cared. I thought Hogsmeade would be more fun than just having tea with the teacher.
What are your overall thoughts on Lupin in general?
I think he's a pretty cool dude, and I feel like he'll bring a big part of, future books.
What do you mean?
He'll not be as cool as Harry and Ron, but, he'll be, hanging out with, Mr. and Mrs. Weasley and them.
So like a positive adult influence.
Yeah.
Okay. Then we have the Halloween feast with the formation floating by the ghosts for entertainment.
Yes.
That sounds like fun. But then they try to go back to their Gryffindor common room and they can't get in. Mm-hmm. Do you remember why?
Because a bad guy went in and, not in, but scared the fat lady. That was not nice.
Who is the bad guy?
Sirius Black.
How do you feel about that? He's in the castle.
I feel like they should be having more protection than just locking everything. They know that he's in the castle. Why are they locking him in with the children?
So leave the doors open so he can get out?
I don't think he'll get out, but I feel like that's a little strange.
Let's lock it down and then he's stuck in there. That's what
You don't
lockdown
know
is.
where he is.
Yeah, so the idea would be lock down, and then you go and search every area individually. So you lock everything really quickly, so he can't get out. Mm-hmm. And you know where all the students are because you brought them all. You know where all the students are because you've brought them all into the Great Hall.
Yeah.
So you know that as long as your head count is good, you have all the students protected, then you can hopefully fish them out,
But there's the mentors outside, and what you don't know. What if a group like Harry, Ron, and Hermione go out like that and search?
There's definitely a track record.
Yeah. How can we never hear of any other students doing the stuff that they do? Are they just the only ones that just refuse to follow rules?
Are the rest of the school just that boring?
Probably are.
Yeah. It feels a lot like the lockdowns we practice at school for intruder drills.
Yeah.
So I'd assume it would be run similar to that.
But there's the mentors outside.
Right, so how did he get in?
Magic? I don't know. It's a wizarding world here.
I've been beaten.
Poof, magic. Mic drop. But then we get this super cool sleepover in the Great Hall.
Yeah.
Sound like fun?
No.
Why not?
Billions of people in one room, stuck with them. Different genders in the same room, trying to sleep. I feel very uncomfortable.
So you just go hide under a table or something.
Yeah, but I feel like even being in the girls' room of the Hufflepuff area, because I'm a Hufflepuff, in the girls' room, I feel like that'd even be uncomfortable for me. But no, boys and girls in a huge room with teachers surrounding you.
Not teachers, head boys and prefects.
That's even better.
Great, look at that supervision. I totally approve.
I know, right? I just feel like I'd be so uncomfortable just hiding in the corner, just like, people.
All right. Well, so then we get into November and we have our first Quidditch match of the year. And we've got Gryffindor playing your very own Hufflepuff. And it's very rainy. And by they, you mean?
Cedric Diggory.
I mean, I'm very happy for you.
Thank you.
How do you feel about the game?
I felt like it was an accomplishment for Hufflepuff.
Any particular reason?
Because we won against Gryffindor.
Good for you.
And we haven't done that since Harry came along.
That's true.
So I feel like it was cool. But on the Gryffindor side, it was very sad because Nimbus 2000 broke. Harry fell. Dumbledore, very bad. Dementors everywhere. And Harry, again, hears parents screaming and dead. Not cool.
So yay, Hufflepuff. Yeah, not so good for Harry.
Looking on the bright side.
It's very Hufflepuff of you. Yeah. And then the last chapter is really about the Marauders Map. Mm-hmm. And Fred and George and their very generous gift to Harry. What are your thoughts on that?
And I feel like they were being nice and like, hey, Merry Christmas. But, we already have it locked up in here, so we're good. But here you go. Yeah.
What would you have done if you had been given the Marauders Map?
I would have totally gone to, Hogsmeade. I would have totally done that.
Okay. Do you think, so you don't think Harry should have, waited and, no, just let's go?
Yeah.
Okay. What do you think about the Hogsmeade trip?
I thought it was pretty cool. I mean, he tries butterbeer for the first time, but, at the same time, he figures out some very scary things.
Like?
That Sirius Black is coming for him, and Sirius Black kills his parents with using Voldemort, and that he's on Voldemort's side, and that Peter Pettigrew tried to save him, tried to capture him, but he's dead with only a finger left of his body. Probably
like a pinky or something.
Yeah.
So the other big thing we learn is that Sirius was James's best friend, right? That's pretty hard it's a pretty hard pill to swallow, I think.
Pretty hard to have all the information just thrown out at you in 15 minutes. Mm-hmm. You need to process that, but at the same time not get caught, so you're not killed by the teachers and detention.
That if you get caught, eavesdropping, it's death is the only only punishment.
I ain't been dropping no eaves, sir.
There ain't no eaves in Hobbiton, in the Shire, that's for sure. But yeah, death would be the punishment. I think the penalty.
Yeah, truth. It's definitely equal.
That detention,
natural consequence. You're dead. Poof. Magic happens.
But yeah, that's a pretty big one to be kind of sprung on him when he's not expecting anything like that. I agree with you completely.
All right, so are you ready to get into your 5 burning questions?
Sure.
All right. Question number 1 comes from chapter 6. Do you think hippogriffs were a good choice for Hagrid's first lesson?
Yes, because I thought that they were very cool creatures, and I assume from the front of the book that those are hippogriffs, and they look very nice, and I love animals, and I would like to know more about hippogriffs.
Okay.
Hippogriffs.
Question 2 from chapter 7.
Okay.
I'm going to give a little explanation of my question.
Okay.
When Lupin is talking to Neville about his Boggart,
Yes.
his Boggart is going to turn into Snape because that's what Neville is most afraid of. Rightfully so. I think we can all agree. And in order to help Neville make Snape funny, he has him think about his grandmother's clothing. One of the things his grandmother wears is a hat with a stuffed vulture on top of her head. What kind of bird would you wear on top of your head?
A cardinal, because they're bright and red, and I root for the Cardinals.
Okay, that's a good answer.
Yeah.
I didn't think about that one.
Better than us. Better than our answers.
That's true. Yeah. All right, chapter 8. Which store in Hogsmeade would you spend the most time in?
Either Zonko's or the Quidditch.
Quality
store.
Quidditch supplies?
Yes, quality Quidditch supplies.
That's in Diagon Alley.
I was going to say, I don't think that was in Hogsmeade.
Not, no.
That's where you would go anyway.
Yeah, I would just fly there.
Okay. Why would you pick those two?
I love candy and food, and
Well, Zonko's is a joke shop,
Yeah.
not Honeyduke's, the candy shop.
yeah, jokes.
Okay, you said candy and food.
I'm sorry.
Okay, let's start over.
Jokes.
So, jokes. Yeah, obviously.
Jokes.
You're good at those.
All right.
Yay. So, jokes. Okay.
And
And what? I have no and. Do you have an and?
I have an and.
Pranks.
And for the Quidditch, quality Quidditch that I fly to,
Because you have time. It's awesome. Go ahead.
yeah, I think that I'm a sports person, so I feel like I would love Quidditch, and I would want to know more about it.
Okay. From chapter 9, how is Harry going to play Quidditch without his broom?
Magic.
We're back to that, huh?
Think you could borrow a vacuum or anything
Like-
from Filch.
What's the...
Hocus Pocus.
Yes.
Yeah.
High five. That was awesome. All right. Last question.
Well,
I'm choosing between two. I'm
pick one.
Pick one. I'm choosing between. Okay, well, maybe pick one.
going to actually not pick either. I'm going to pick the other one. Would you have kept the Marauders map, or would you have told a teacher?
I would have totally kept it. I would totally keep it because I think I could do some, I don't know. If I hated a class, I could just, I don't know, get out of it somehow. But
Would you tell your parents you had the map?
no.
Excellent. Good to know.
Yeah.
Note to self.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you think you'd be more interested in skipping class or keeping tabs on people? Like, hey, I wonder what so-and-so is up to. Because everyone has their little dots on there, right? Mm-hmm. Do you think that'd be kind of interesting to see what everyone's up to?
Yeah. If I hate someone, I could just be like, they're there. Go get them.
Go,
Or go
Peeves.
around.
Go Peeves.
Go Beeves. All right.
All right, well, we have to do a favorite line, right?
And favorite person.
Yeah. All right. So in these 5 chapters, what was your favorite line?
My favorite line was, I can't think of it. I had it.
Earlier I said, what is it? She says, it's in my head. You're not going to tell me? No, I'm not going to tell you. And now she forgot.
Man, I can't remember.
Do you know which chapter it was in at all?
No.
Or what was going on?
No.
Was it in these 5 chapters?
Hopefully. Yes, they were.
Would you like to look at our favorite lines and see if it lines up?
All right. So in chapter 6, you can cut all of this out, Luke. My favorite line was Mcgonagall saying, "You look in excellent health to me, Potter, so you will excuse me if I don't let you off homework today. I assure you that if you die, you need not hand it in." That was mine. And Luke's was, "When you've all finished deciding whether I'm going to die or not," said Harry, taking even himself by surprise. Now nobody seemed to want to look at him.
In chapter 7, I was hoping that Neville would assist me with the first stage of the operation, he said, and I am sure that he will perform it admirably.
No.
And then then mine was, Neville, I believe you live with your grandmother? Yes, said Neville nervously, but I don't want the Boggart to turn into her either.
In chapter 8, Luke had like a whole scene that was his favorite line, and it was Harry saying that he wasn't afraid of Voldemort, he was really afraid of the Dementor, and Lupin's like, "Oh, clearly I was wrong."
Yeah.
That whole thing about, what you seem to fear is fear itself, or something like that. And mine was, "Oh yes, Professor Head," by Peeves. It was much shorter than his.
That was chapter 9?
That was 8. Sorry, 8, I can count.
Mine was the Harry Potter one that was like, if you're planning like how I'm gonna die, tell me now. That one.
Oh, from chapter 6,
Yeah,
Luke's.
chapter
So when you're
6.
all finished deciding whether or not I'm going to die.
Yes.
Okay, here. It's that one highlighted right there.
When you all finish deciding whether I'm going to die or not, says Harry, taking even himself by surprise. Now nobody seems to wait to look at him.
And who was your favorite character in this section?
Hagrid.
Okay.
For the one chapter that he had, he was being a good teacher for the first time. He did what he planned. He was trying to make it fun. And, like, when someone got hurt, he did what teachers do. Like, he did pretty well.
All right. Lorelai, thank you for your time. We will see you in 6 weeks.
Yeah.
Keep reading.
Hopefully.
We'll see. All right. Thanks.
Yeah.
All right, folks, we have been joined by our first-time reader, Riley. Riley, how's it going?
It's going well.
Nice
Great to be
see you.
back. Yeah, it's awesome.
You're here.
In the flesh.
It's
in the
great,
studio.
I
think I was here last time, too.
Which is great.
Yeah.
So just about every 6 weeks, you get to come home from school just for this.
Yeah, the only reason I come home.
That's what
is
we're here
this.
for.
This is the only reason I come home too.
That's the only reason I come back to my old house.
Yeah.
All right, so let's kick off this 5-chap recap for you. A lot happened, a lot didn't happen. What do you think of this as a block of chapters?
This block of chapters was fairly slow, in my opinion. Like, there was a lot that was uncovered, I guess, or starting to be uncovered, but a lot of, like, Chapter 6 was slow. Chapter 8 in particular was really slow until the very last sentence, or like last paragraph. And I mean, it was great. Like, I enjoyed it, obviously, but I don't know. I don't have many like overarching thoughts. There's just like a lot of little notes, I guess.
Okay.
So, like, plot happens.
Yeah.
But, like, slow plot.
Mm-hmm. It's like
There's
very...
a lot of setup.
Yeah.
More than anything actually happening.
Mm-hmm.
We do, so the first chapter that we have, Talons and Tea Leaves, we basically have a run-in with a portrait of Sir Cadogan.
Yeah.
What'd you think of him?
I thought he was funny. I'm a sucker for knights, so I like that he's kind of a blunder, like isn't really successful in his endeavors, but everybody's just kind of like, okay, get out of my way. Like he just wants to, and then he's like, oh, there's a quest. I don't know, I thought he was funny, but like, yeah, okay, whatever.
Stand and fight, you scurvy dogs.
He'd be a great Zelda character, but he drives me crazy.
But he does help them get to their
The North Tower.
divination class. So, do you have an issue with climbing a ladder to class? This was something Melissa got really hung up on.
No.
Okay, anyway. That's all I needed. It's not that big of a deal. That's all I needed.
Thank you. I appreciate that. This is the kind of conversation we're going to have here, I see.
So they climb this ladder, and we meet Professor Trelawny. What'd you think of her? She's a little odd duck.
At first, I was like pretty excited because, I mean, I'm a fantasy connoisseur in general, and like especially wizardly things and magic, like even outside of Harry Potter, like divination, like that like really captures me. I don't know, like the idea of like that really captures me, like the idea of telling the future or seeing things that aren't obvious or or over long distances or whatever. But so I was excited about it, but as we kind of learn, she's a little cuckoo. And especially as in the later chapter, like chapter later, like we learn that she's maybe not even that great of a seer.
Okay. So do you believe her in this class, this first class? Like she makes a couple predictions,
wild predictions. Some of them are obviously crazy, but I mean, I feel like she probably gets a lot of visions that maybe not all of them are right.
Okay.
But like 20% or like 10% like of the things that she sees probably come through, but she doesn't understand that she can't just say everything. Like she gets like the base view of everything, like the flashes come to her, but maybe she can't like discern which ones are.
So she has a lot of visual input, the seeing input, right, but her reading of it could be faulty.
Yeah.
Is that maybe kind of what you're getting at?
I think that's probably what's going on.
Misinterpretation.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, very cool.
I think she's a crackpot who's making it all up.
That's what Hermione thinks.
Personal opinion.
Yeah.
But I also said when we talked about it that I think I was also influenced by Hermione's immediate opinion.
Right,
So
and McGonagall's immediate opinion.
Also true.
Which is where we go to next.
And I tend to be a Hermione McGonagall type person anyway. Right. So grains of salt with me. I'm going to sit over here quietly and hate the ladders.
So then we go to McGonagall's class, and she can tell the students are all really kind of off put by something. And they, Harry kind of was like, oh, last class, apparently I'm supposed to die. Like, it's kind of a bummer. Everyone's a little down on it. What'd you think of that scene with McGonagall?
I think she does it well. Like she probably knows. Like I mean the fact that like right when I think she says like, oh, you all came from divination, didn't you? Or maybe they bring it up, but like right when that happens, she's like, oh, I get it. Who's supposed to die this year? And like I mean, she's got a pretty good handle on I think every faculty member. So like she knew how to handle that situation pretty well. I thought it was funny.
Yeah, I did too. I thought she was definitely pretty funny in that scene. So then our next chapter is more classes overall, I think, and it starts with Snape. We have our first potions class.
Double potions class.
Potions on Friday, I believe.
Thursday.
And was it Thursday? On Thursday.
Is that just 2 potions classes in the day?
Back to back is what we're assuming that means?
I assume it's like a 2-hour block.
Yeah, 2-hour block. I was confused at first, but I think that's probably what it means.
Yeah, so double potions with the Slytherins. So they have back-to-back class periods with their best friends.
I didn't like this scene, not because of the characters or the story. I don't like the scene because of the writing. Like, I'm over Snape just being the bad guy because, like, we've obviously, like, played that card in 2 books already, and both times it's not happened. And, like, maybe it will still happen. Maybe he really is whoever is the most overall evil person in the story, but, like, I just don't understand why he's got to be such a jerk. Like, I don't see any teacher in any situation where they actively treat their students like that. And I get that he's like a very specific character. And not that I don't like him. I just like, I think it plays more into the fact that like, oh, the Slytherins are the bad house and the Gryffindors are the good house and the Ravenclaws. And like, I get it, but it's just like a stereotype that like, in my opinion, is just easy to fall on in writing and like, it's lazy.
I kind of agree with you.
I'm just like, not that I don't like that it's happening. Like, I'm fine with it in the story. I just think that it's boring. Like, make him more dynamic because he seems like an interesting character. Stop making him just like such a jerk. Like, oh, he treats Malfoy. He always favors his students. Like, so does all the other heads of the houses. Like, didn't she let them off in the last book when they were climbing the tower at night? Like, didn't she?
No, they got detention for that. Oh, no, that was book 1 they got detention for.
She did something where they let them off, and maybe I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure.
She seems, I don't know, I feel like...
And I'm not saying...
We always see her...
But I get your point. Like, at some point, it would be nice to see him being just like a normal human, which he probably is at some point.
Yeah.
So one of the discussions we've kind of had on our previous chapters, these previous chapters specifically, does it seem like Snape is really ratcheting up how much of a jerk he is, even compared to previous books?
100%.
Have you picked up on that? Any idea why?
I mean, there's some link with Lupin.
Okay.
For sure. I've seen that. I don't know what it is.
But you think that's the, like, alternating factor?
I don't know exactly what it is. I think that, like, because obviously he treats him in a weird way, especially when we get to the Defense Against the Dark Arts class later, but like, it's just, I don't know why it's like so much more right now, but
yeah. So we do get into Defense Against the Dark Arts class, and you know, Snape is sitting in the teacher's lounge where their class is going to be that day. Kind of take us through what you noticed about that scene.
Yeah, so it seemed like, essentially Lupin was taking the students into the faculty lounge where the Boggart was in the closet, and Snape pretty much knew what was going to be going on, and he was just like, yeah, I'm not going to want to witness this. And so he left, which, I mean, I didn't know at first if it was just kind of like a scare tactic for the kids, which, I mean, would be in character for him. Just like, oh, I don't want to see how horrible this will get, and like try to scare him a little bit more before that time. Like, I mean, it's like an older kids kind of thing. Like, oh, we know this crazy thing is going to happen to you guys. I don't know if I want to be here to see it. But like,
right.
He's not like Fred and George, you know, waiting for them to like cross the bridge that's super scary or something. Like, he's a teacher.
Yeah.
So I just don't know. Like, that was the first point where he's like, oh, he doesn't want to be in the same room as Lupin doing something. Like, I don't think he predicted Neville Longbottom seeing Snape in the Boggart. Like, I don't think Snape predicted that. I don't think he was like, oh, I don't want to see myself come out. Because realistically, what teacher is really gonna be a student's worst nightmare? I mean,
I strive for that.
Whatever.
Goals.
But I don't know. I don't really know what was going on.
Okay. So then we have Lupin's class with the Boggart. How do you think that went?
It went well, obviously. Like, I like that for the first time the students feel like they're actually learning some defense mechanisms, and like they all receive him really well, aside from Malfoy and the gang or whatever. But he seems to connect well with students that don't get attention, like putting Neville up on the front and putting him in a position to succeed. And like, he seems like a great teacher. So that was exciting for me. I don't know. I like when you see students do well that don't always. So
what did you think of the Boggart itself?
I think it's a very interesting magical creature that you don't really see in any other kind of story. It's unique and interesting, and I like that attacking it in a group is the right way to go about it. Like, it's a scary creature that if you learn about it, you know how to deal with it. So I thought it was an interesting creature.
Do you have an idea of what your Boggart would be?
No. It would be something super like abstract, like pictures of me dying or something like that.
We talked a lot about that, how as a kid, your fears are very concrete. Like when we were talking to Lorelai, hers was a clown.
Right.
When we, if I ask like my students at school, their fears are things you can see, creatures or the monster under your bed, something like that. As adults, our fears are much more, like you said, abstract. It's
intangible.
Yes, it's fear of dying, fear of losing
or like
kids, fear of
seeing myself on a street with like nothing and nobody interested in me.
Right.
Like
my nightmare last night literally was I was outside in the heat and I was getting sunburned and I had no sunscreen. And like I woke up like this is so dumb, but like in a fit of sweat, like, oh wait, it's been raining here for like 15 days straight. So there is no chance of this being a problem. But like that was the nightmare I had, was being sunburned. It's weird things, you know?
Right. And how does a Boggart take that form? We don't see see that come up in this class because they are children.
Also, one thing that I didn't not like, but like my one tripe with the Boggart is that it seemed like the kids were choosing their greatest fear, which, I mean, maybe that goes along the lines of like when you're younger, it's something more tangible, but I don't think you actively all the time, not in every case, choose what your greatest fear is and like knowingly can point it out to yourself all the time.
I agree. But along with that, sometimes if you know what the monster is, you know what it is, you know it's coming, you decide that in yourself, and that makes it scarier at times. Like, I know there's a werewolf in there. They start forming this image in their head that the Boggart, I guess, can
latch
see.
onto. And
so it plays up on that.
That makes sense.
That's how I see it, at least.
I just think of it so much as Pennywise from It, who he takes the form of the thing that's going to scare the person. And I would go into more detail, but it's stuff that my first-time reader for that can't hear. So,
I haven't read it or seen it yet.
Yes, but you're not on my podcast as my first-time reader, so I can't share that with you, but just know that it's that same idea of...
I like to read things too.
There you go.
And he's going to read it along with our podcast.
Nice.
The podcast that floats down here.
Yeah.
Huh, it's active. Great. My other thought is it also reminds me of the Pirates of the Caribbean movies with the compass that doesn't point north. It points to the thing you want the most. And it's not even the thing that your heart's desire. It's not even that deep. It's just like,
you want right now.
I'm really thirsty. Boom. It's pointing at a beer. I'm really hungry. It's pointing at a sandwich. Like, it's literally, what do I want right now? Yeah. So it's I don't think it's necessarily the Boggart necessarily goes with your deepest, darkest fear. It's whatever you're afraid of in that moment. So I think Boggarts can change not just over time, but even over like situations.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, we saw that too.
Yeah.
In that scene.
Yeah. So if they're forming that image in their head, the Boggart's like, well, that made that easy.
Perfect.
Yep. Take.
Poof. Magic happened.
So one class that we actually skipped over, but we should probably talk about is Hagrid's first Care Magical Creatures class.
Right.
What did you think of that class? How do you think it went?
Obviously, it didn't end up going well, but I think his intentions are good. Like, a hippogriff seems like an amazing creature, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And, I don't know, like, I think it was obviously maybe a little bit of a Hagrid oversight, putting a creature that demands respect in front of 13-year-olds. 13? Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, they typically, you start at 11, so usually it lines up the year is their age.
If you ever listen to John Mulaney, you know that 13-year-olds are the most evil people on the planet.
John Mulaney, one of the funniest comedians on the planet.
Yeah.
I disagree.
No, he is one of the funniest comedians on the planet.
I'm sorry.
Do not disagree there.
No, I don't disagree with that. I disagree with 13-year-olds. I believe they are the second most evil people in the world. They follow sophomores. So like 15. I hate sophomores. Yeah. Then 13-year-olds. Then anybody under the age of 4.
They'll make fun of you, but in an accurate way.
They're not sugarcoating it or going around the bend.
You've got feminine hips. That's something I'm sensitive about.
That's something I'm sensitive about. Hilarious.
All right, I should look into that.
So then we move on to chapter 8, The Flight of the Fat Lady. So several things happen in this chapter, which I don't exactly remember.
This is our first trip to Hogsmeade and Halloween, and not Harry's trip.
All the Scabbers stuff.
Yeah. Thoughts on what's
Tea
going
with
on
Lupin.
there?
Well,
Yeah, what are your thoughts about
there
Scabbers
was
and Crookshanks?
a
Let's start there.
ton of animal stuff in like so much so that I am feeling like some kind of I don't know what the word is, symbolism, or like something that by the end of the book I will know what this is talking about. Like I feel like I'm picking up, like they're talking a ton about so we had Scabbers and Crookshanks. Like Crookshanks was like trying to kill it, and then right after that we had Lavender Brown's rabbit died to a fox.
Okay.
And then I mean with all like the Grim is a wolf thing, and Harry seeing the wolf, and there's just a ton of animal symbolism in this book so far, which I just like picked up on in that moment because it was like right at one after another. And then we get Lupin and Harry are together
Having some tea.
having tea, and then Snape brings his potion in
With tea bags, not tea leaves.
Yeah, exactly. And Snape brings his potion in. Oh, on a side note, tea leaves, like using tea leaves for divination would not be any different than just like looking at clouds and seeing things. And
Ooh, that's a really good comparison.
like, okay, I'm going to drop some tea leaves in here and see what I see. And then I'm also just going to go look at the sky and tell your future about the cloud that you see. Like, okay.
That's what divination is.
Not real divination.
This is what magical divination is, apparently.
Okay.
What about Hogsmeade? I'm moving on.
Mm,
Or the lack of getting to visit it, I guess I should say.
I mean, listen, you don't get to go on every field trip, okay? Sometimes you have to miss out. I've been there. I mean, in grade school, sometimes you get in trouble. Sometimes you don't have good grades. You don't get to go on a field trip. Harry, get over it.
I don't know what that feels like.
I've missed field trips. I don't know. It's a day. Like, you still have a freaking magical castle with...
Whatever, I still go on field trips.
I mean, I'm not saying he doesn't want to go.
Right.
You're saying he should get over it.
Yeah.
Buck up.
Your friends will bring back whatever. Like,
Right. Send
candy.
money and they'll bring back anything
Exactly.
you want.
Exactly.
Okay.
I don't know. And it seemed like most of the trip is like going and eating candy and food when you have a magical like feast every freaking night for dinner and lunch. Like, do you guys really need to eat that much? Like, I don't know.
Well, they can magically stay skinny, apparently.
Sure.
Well, they have to walk to divination now at least once a week. That's a long walk.
Whatever.
Lots of stairs, lots of steps. It's how they're getting their exercises.
Yeah, there's
That's
no
all.
PE.
That's the only physical
There's
education
no
that they have is just walking through a castle.
But you know what?
You-
I bet it's a lot.
This is huge oversight by JK. No PE, unlimited amounts of food. There's no way these kids.
Very limited supervision when it comes to like their teenage years.
There's no way these kids are physically fit.
Big castle. Lots of walking.
Movable stairs.
Movable stairs. They don't even have to walk that much.
No,
I
no.
don't think
As in,
they're not escalators.
No, the stairs
change where they go.
relocate, so you have to find them all the time. I agree
Flying
with you.
practice.
Okay.
There's no cardio involved in that.
Maybe some ab work a little bit.
You go ride a horse for a while. and
Save
tell
a
me-
horse. Ride a cowboy.
Not my style. Go ride a horse for a while and tell me it's not work.
I know.
It'll wear you
Yeah.
out. That's all I'm saying. Anyway, the end of this chapter, we are let's see, where are they actually at when they get the news?
And the hallway
In the
outside the
hallway.
door.
Right, so
They're
they're all
at-
heading
yeah.
back up from dinner, and there's a big crowd.
Mhm.
They can't get into the common room. So what's going on there?
Yeah, so Percy pushes his way through and sees that the fat lady's portrait's been slashed through and she's missing. And Dumbledore arrives and Peeves ends up blurting out that Sirius Black was in the castle and attacked her and tried to get in.
Are you worried about that?
I mean, like, yeah, I guess. He's trying to get into the Gryffindor common room is what it seems like. We already know he's after Harry.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, and and we have Dementors around, which have already caused problems, and they're obviously not helping at this point, if that's really what happened. I mean, maybe I don't trust Peeves, but it was obviously stated that he doesn't taunt or lie to Dumbledore, so I think he's telling the truth, and the following procedures that the faculty take obviously believe in it as well.
Right, because they end up taking all of the students down to the Great Hall, where they have their big sleeping party. Does that sound like a fun time to you?
No.
Everyone down in the hall sleeping? I had 6 roommates for a year, and sleeping in a room with 6 people is hell. Sleeping in a room with 300 people, or however many students there are, no thanks. With Percy Weasley going around, snooping around, saying you can't whisper or make noise, no thanks. This just reminds me of like late grade school, like a retreat at school or something, and like everyone would be there, and it would be a lot of fun.
Yeah, in our small grade schools.
No, I still, I remember lock-ins, freshman year of high school. The whole freshman class was...
But the thing is, it's not all of your friends. You be sleeping with Gryffindors and Slytherins who are sworn enemies.
But again,
you're going to be right by you. You get to choose where your sleeping bag is.
Yeah, see, I'm fine with it.
It sounds pretty exciting, especially with the ghosts. Like, I don't know.
Right.
Literally, you could tell ghost stories.
All right, so Luke, if we ever have to have a big, massive group outing, I know who I'm inviting and who I'm not.
Yeah.
Done.
We're good.
Okay, moving on. So we have our first Quidditch match of the season versus Hufflepuff.
Yeah.
Because the Slytherins backed out.
Slytherin, yeah.
Well, he's just so injured. You can't play it.
And it is raining.
I mean, can I just say, leading up to this chapter, all the signs were like, the chapter is called Grim Defeat, and all of the signs were showing that it was not going to be a good game. Like, right off the bat.
Yeah.
Harry didn't get a good night's sleep. It was storming. Oliver Wood didn't even give a pregame speech.
Oh, well, that's what it has to be.
I blame that.
Yeah, are you kidding me? He's been hyping him up all year so far, and then he's been hyping up this match, and he just drops out, doesn't say anything.
Where are you, Cap? Come on.
Are you kidding me? That's not good morale at all.
No.
It's lightning and thundering, and we didn't prepare for this team. Go and play your game. Get over it. I don't care if it's not a real sport. I mean, okay, Quidditch is a real sport now, and I'm a huge fan of my school's Quidditch team. I've seen a couple games. But a sport's a sport, and you gotta hype your team up if you're the captain, especially right before the game.
Yeah.
Not a good job.
Especially when you have 3 matches a year. You gotta be ready.
Yeah.
Right. That's all you get.
That's all you get.
Yeah. So obviously it was gonna be a great match going into it, and then out of nowhere, the Dementors come and cause some trouble. Whatever. I don't know. I just think it's so... I don't know who is what I should be worried about as a reader right now. I feel very detached from the story at this moment because we have Dementors, which are terrible things that we've learned that are supposed to be protecting us, but obviously they're not protecting us from the guy who's already in the castle somehow, and they just they're not supposed to go onto the grounds, but then they just show up onto the grounds. Convenient for the story at that moment, I think. Lazy writing, in my opinion.
Okay.
But I like that we learn more about them because of it, and that they are a real threat, and that Dumbledore seems to be doing something about them more now after this incident when Harry falls. So convenient in the sense that it pushes some narrative, one of the narratives that is going on right now. I just think there's a lot going on to pay attention to. Not that I'm getting lost, I just don't know
where the main focus should be.
Yes, exactly. And I think it'll obviously, had I read maybe another 5 chapters right afterwards, I would maybe feel differently.
So what I'm hearing is you want to read more.
Yeah, I do want to read more, but I just at this moment, I just
Yeah, I'm getting a very annoyed vibe.
I'm not
and not
annoyed.
in a bad way, but
I'm enjoying reading it. It's just I'm annoyed with the way that it's panning out.
And it doesn't help that you have to stop.
Yeah.
I know. I'm sorry. We appreciate
the
effort.
it does, it's not really it. It's just, I don't know. There's like I said, there's a lot of different directions that I'm getting pulled, and I wish I'm a linear guy. I want one thing to start, build up, go through and can finish and then do something else but obviously that would be boring with 7 books of the same thing. I get it. And I like that there's different plot lines coming up and stuff, but I just don't know which one.
So Harry falls, and he's in the hospital wing for a little bit, and he realizes whose voice he's been hearing when the Dementors are around.
Yeah, so he actually, rather than, well, he hears a scream, but more than that, he hears some words come out, and he realizes that it's his mother pleading for his life.
It's gotta be hard.
Yeah.
I mean, pleading for her life, for his life.
Yeah.
I mean, it's...
At the moment of her death.
Yeah.
Her murder.
That's gotta be pretty rough.
Yeah, terrible. Terrifying. Yeah, I mean... And later we learned that it's because the Dementors bring out the worst in your life and suck all the happiness away, which I'm a big fan of that magical creature in general. Like, again, pretty unique, pretty brutal.
All right. So then we end this section with a gift from Fred and George.
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel about this gift?
I think this is a cool magical item. I love magical items. Marauders Map is very unique. It tells where everybody is in the castle and all the passageways. Can't beat it. If you
I just feel like this is a fantasy video game. It's like,
Harry has now acquired the map.
Like, and also, I think it's a super, like, if we were, like, judging items by stat, like, super OP item. If you lose the game with this item, you are an idiot. Like,
can you define OP for
Oh.
people who might
got
not
it.
get it?
oh, like an
Ish.
overpowered item,
I
an item
figured
that's
it was
very
something
strong.
Was implied.
That if you have it, you should be able to beat everybody most of the time that does not have it.
Especially combined with the fact that he also has an invisibility
Right.
cloak.
And a
Like,
magical wand. Like, that's like the...
although
you know,
Try
he is,
that.
that's the starter weapon.
he is down a broomstick.
That is true.
Yeah.
That is true. And you cannot apparate within Hogwarts.
Magic. Poof.
But yeah, I mean, I agree. Having that combo, like, how would you not just have that with you at all times?
Yeah.
So then he gets to go to Hogsmeade.
Mm-hmm.
Well, goes anyway.
Right.
Semantics. What do you feel about his trip?
So we see Honeyduke's the candy shop, which is pretty cool.
I need to get a Honeyduke's sign for our studio here.
That would be awesome.
I would just like some candy. There should be like a bowl or something. Get on that, host. Next time I'll just bring a box of Girl Scout cookies.
There we
It'll
go.
be fine.
That'll cover us.
I have several hidden in my freezer. Don't tell my kids.
So I don't know. We see, like, I always enjoy seeing more of the world. So we see a small little wizarding town on the outskirts of, like, I imagine this is the college town,
Okay.
right?
Oh.
Of Hogwarts, as small as it is, and like it's got the novelty shops and the candy store you go to, and the brewery, and like, oh, the shack is the place to go. It's the scary place, and then you have the post office. Like, it's like the college town, and here it's like all of the standout things in the town are there, and there's probably other stuff that we don't see.
So it's definitely got townies, right?
Yeah,
Because the townies go there as opposed to like the kids. We only see the spot like the college kids, if you will, go to, and not the spot the people who just live there.
There's probably just like a bar and like the store, like the general store, not like the wizarding store of, like, it's probably just like, I'm going to the store in Hogsmeade because I need
Wizarding
to
general
get
supplies.
bread. Like,
I need some food.
Yeah.
I need to buy an apple.
yeah, so I think it's a cool town. We get a pretty wild conversation that comes up next.
Mm-hmm.
But we don't get to see much of the town because, I mean, in my opinion, Harry is being pretty risky, just kind of like walking around.
Pretty brazen.
Yeah.
I couldn't do it. I'd be too afraid. I'm going to get in trouble. I need to go back. What am I
Especially
doing?
as the most famous person. Like, if people know that he's not supposed to be there, he's pretty recognizable.
Yeah. Like,
Right.
He's
not stealth.
Right.
all it takes is anybody from Slytherin so that's 1/4 of the school to see him.
True.
Was it a whole school trip, or is it?
Third year and
years
up.
and up.
But is it Gryffindors at a time
No,
only,
I
or
think
is
it's
it?
everybody.
Okay.
Everyone, third
Yeah.
years and up.
So it takes
As far as we know.
1/4 of the school to see him, essentially, to point him out and tell him
In this
a teacher.
small town.
And I'm sure there's kids in Gryffindor who would say something because, oh, you're breaking the rules. I don't want more points getting it taken. So that's at least half of Gryffindor.
Maybe 20-30%.
Because they also don't
Yeah.
want to lose the points. So they may not tell him.
Right.
They might see him and say, you need to leave. Why are
Right.
you here?
And you have the other half of the school that probably would also, say something like...
Or any teacher.
Or like in passing. Like, hey, I saw Harry. What do you mean you saw Harry?
Exactly.
Like an accidental slip of information.
I'd say that's like a 80% chance that you're not going to make it out of that trip without getting caught.
Whereas Hermione could totally do it and nobody would notice.
Yeah.
I don't know if a Weasley could because there's so many of them, but
they also wouldn't be in that situation. Like,
also,
they would have their...
But you know what I'm saying? Like, of all the people...
Yeah.
It shouldn't be Harry because everybody knows him. Even the people who work in the town know him.
I think it's Harry specifically that it would be that troublesome. Anyone else, like, no one would care. Even if, like, Ginny was there for some reason, like, no one would care.
I'm saying I don't think anyone would notice. I don't think anyone would realize
even if they did notice,
problem.
like, they wouldn't do anything about it. Like, why would you tattle? It doesn't... I don't care.
Again,
Yeah. So then...
Gryffindors being non-Gryffindor-like.
I don't disagree with you.
Another stick in the stereotype.
All right. So then we hear this conversation, one table over where he's hiding.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think about what he learns about Sirius Black?
It's pretty insane to learn that the guy who's trying to kill you is your godfather and was your father's best friend and was the one person that your parents entrusted with the Fidelis charm to keep their secret of where they were, and he was the one that betrayed them. I mean, at this point, I don't see why Harry wouldn't go and try to kill Sirius Black, because he's obviously... we know he's rash, or was it brash? Brash, and would do something like that.
Either, really.
And
he's brash and makes rash decisions.
Yeah. He's probably about to snap. If I turned one more page, I would say that he's probably going to go snap and do something crazy.
All right. Riley, are you ready to get into your 5 burning questions?
Heck yeah.
Now, question number 1. Do you think Hippogriffs was a good choice for Hagrid's first lesson?
No.
Because?
Like I said earlier, 13-year-olds not going to always give you the most respect. If they're a probably less intelligent creature than humans, but respect is one of their big things, it's probably not going to go over well, even though it would be a cool thing to introduce yourself as a teacher if they receive it well.
Okay. Question number 2. This comes from chapter 7. So, as a preface, when Neville sees Snape, what he does to turn him into something funny is he dresses him in his grandmother's clothing, which includes a hat with a stuffed vulture on top. Mm-hmm. What stuffed bird would you put on top of your hat?
Like for a Boggart or for myself?
No, for like your hat.
You're wearing it.
Yep.
Okay. It depends on the occasion and what I'm trying to do.
We would have multiple bird hats. Okay.
Probably.
Continue.
A whole wardrobe.
If I was trying to be...
A bird robe?
This is going to be funny. Not really. But if I was trying to be ostentatious and very out there, I would put an ostrich on there because it'd be huge and humongous and hilarious. But if I was trying to be intimidating, I'd put a mean falcon. That'd be cool. Like a pirate's hat with a falcon on it.
Okay. All right.
I think a peacock might be a better option for your first one.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, that would be if he was being fancy and ostentatious.
No, I just want to be noticed. That guy's got an ostrich on his head.
That guy's wearing an ostrich.
What is he?
Seriously, that guy.
Over there.
Turn
ostrich.
your head. You don't even have to be stealth. Just look at this guy.
This guy,
he
literally
wants you to look at him.
He's got an ostrich on his head. It's right there. He's got an ostrich on his head. It's an ostrich, folks.
Luke's over here with a parrot. I've got a hummingbird. It's little. It won't.
Yeah.
It's not too painful.
I think I went with an eagle, didn't I? Maybe
I
went
had
with
said
parrot.
eagle.
Maybe I went with parrot.
You went with parrot. I said eagle, but it was going to be too heavy, so I went with the smallest possible option.
Yeah.
All right. Question number 3. Which store in Hogsmeade would you spend the most time in?
I think I wrote them down. What can you name them all?
Zonkos, Honeydukes.
What is Zonkos?
Joke shop. There's the owl.
The post office.
There's we'll count the 3 broomsticks. The bar. You could do the Shrieking Shack, which has been mentioned.
Did you do the owl post?
Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, I might just go with this. I would not spend a lot of time in Honeydews because I don't like candy, for real. I'll eat candy, but I'm not a candy guy.
It's also not a place you go to hang out.
Yeah. Shrieking Shack, I don't get scared, and if I do get scared, I don't enjoy getting scared.
Challenge accepted.
Okay, I don't get scared often, but when I do get scared, I get scared, and I don't enjoy being scared. I don't like horror movies. I don't like, Haunted houses
yes.
are boring. Wouldn't spend time there.
Okay.
Owl Post. I love owls, but I feel like at that point in the world, I would be like over it. Like I would go and be like, "Oh my gosh, there's so many," and then I'd be like, "All right."
Unless I'm actually sending a letter.
Yeah,
What
I wouldn't like spend time there.
Right.
So probably, I mean, at this point, I'm 21 years old. Probably the 3 broomsticks.
I'll be there. I'll be there with you.
Yeah,
For sure.
No, I went with
Zonkos.
the general supply store, like the wizarding supply store, because I figured it was mostly like Target, and I spend most of my time at Target. So I'm gonna go with like the general household supplies place.
I would say Zonkos would probably be a close second, depending on the kind of jokes. I'm very picky on my comedy and jokes. So like if they're not good
Not
jokes,
surprised.
if they're like novelty, like I'm out of here. But like if they're like they got some gems in there, I could probably spend some time there. So like
Okay.
it's very dependent on their wares. So it's up to Zonkos. You guys, it's up to you guys whether you keep me in your store or not. Okay.
It's theirs to lose.
He's a
At
willing
this point,
customer.
I'll already be drunk. So
All right, the bar just got even lower. Or higher. Who knows?
Yeah,
Could
I
be
don't
more
know.
picky. We'll have to find out.
All right, question number 4. How is Harry going to play Quidditch without his broom?
it's probably not very well.
I think that's what I said too. Not well.
I mean, they've got extra brooms, I guess. But okay, Harry's rich as heck. All right, send freaking Hagrid to go send somebody. Dobby's a free elf now. Go send Dobby with your key to Gringotts, pick up some freaking money, and buy the nicest broom you can get, because that's the only thing that you do with your time other than study is play Quidditch.
So it's a
And
good
cause trouble.
investment.
So stop causing trouble and get back on the broom and get back on the Quidditch pitch, and you have the money, you have the means to do it.
All right. And your last question. Would you have kept the Marauders map?
Oh yeah.
You would not have told.
No.
Why not?
I'm not I am a Slytherin at heart, and
think
I
that's enough.
can recognize an advantage when I see one and an opportunity when it's handed to me.
All right.
All right, so we know you were a little bit down on parts of these chapters, but overall, not
No,
too
they
bad,
weren't
I think.
terrible. They were good.
What was your favorite line?
So my favorite line is a quote from that Harry remembers from Mrs. Weasley when he gets the Marauders map from Fred and George, when she says, "Never trust anything that can think for itself if you can't see where it keeps its brain," which I like the Marauders map, obviously, but I like that statement because if something is intelligent, whether it's, I mean, especially with like technology these days, like it's very relatable. Like if something's intelligent, but you don't know where it's getting its knowledge from or how it's working or understand it, then you shouldn't take what it says as fact or like as your
At face value.
Yeah, at face value. Like you have to realize that there's something else being put into it most of the time, and that you probably don't understand what's going on.
Mm-hmm. I think that's pretty fair.
Mm-hmm.
So along with that, who was your section MVP?
Easy one. Not many other people did much. Actually, not super easy, because in terms of actions, Hermione does the most in this section to aid Harry, who, I mean, hardcore, this part of the story revolves around his, I mean, obviously the whole story revolves around him, but his doings are very well tracked in this section, and she aids him a lot by like making his glasses waterproof. What else did she do?
She helped hide him from the teachers.
Yeah, hid him from the teachers. But in terms of like emotional support, Lupin is probably the MVP, just because he brings Harry back down to earth a lot, gets him out of his, oh, I'm weak, when he was thinking about the Boggart and why he didn't do it. Like, he rationalizes very well with Harry and makes him feel, I think, a lot better. So,
As a mentor would.
yeah, exactly. But he doesn't take that "I'm better than you" approach. It's
No.
like he takes it as we're peers, but I am here to give you what I know.
Yeah, I don't think there's gonna be any arguments that Lupin was the best in this section.
Yeah, and he also
for a character introduction, I mean, I don't think there's been many characters that we've had, you know, that we meet in such a short period of time and just like almost everything about, you know, like this. It seems like so good for Harry is
Right.
what it, you know, what we've come to see
And
at least.
for the other students in his classes as well.
Right?
Like,
Yeah, it's
he
not
makes a
just
great
Harry.
impression
It's,
on.
yeah.
So
Cool. Well, that wraps us up for these 5 chapters. We will see you again in 6 weeks. You gonna stay with us?
Yeah, definitely. I'm not sorry. I had a little bit of a negative outlook, but not in the story. Just maybe some of the writing tactics.
We're going to have some pepper up potion for you when you come back.
Okay,
No worries.
please do.
All right. See you later.
All right.
Yeah,
Thanks,
I'll
bud.
see you soon. Thank you.
All right, so we're going to get into our listener feedback section where you send us in your questions and we choose one question to answer every single recap episode. This week's question comes from Sydney in Texas, and the question is Hagrid now a fully qualified wizard with a wand? Luke, what are your thoughts?
I think we don't have any evidence that he has been given his wand back, or given a new wand, or is allowed to technically use his. I think it's kind of like he still maybe has a permit. Maybe he's being reinstated to have a driver's permit. I don't think he's fully qualified because he has not graduated. I don't know if there's some kind of certification process with that, but I think he should be allowed to. I think he should be allowed to go and finish that. But right now, I don't think he is, unfortunately.
See, and this is my concern because I agree with you. I think he is not. I think he should be able to go back to school to become one,
Yeah.
but instead they hire him as a teacher.
Right.
I mean, and not that he isn't an expert with magical creatures. He truly is. But shouldn't he get to be a wizard if that's what he wants? Unless maybe he doesn't care about that and he's lived his life so far and I've been totally fine living these 60 some odd years without it. And I just want to teach kids about taking care of these great, fantastic beasts.
Yeah. No, it's odd that a non-professor or a non-wizard is a professor at a magic school. I don't think it should be necessary, I guess, but especially because his area of expertise doesn't really rely on using magic so much as maybe understanding the magical properties of animals,
Although,
of magical creatures, I should say.
I mean, I agree with you, but wouldn't you think one of the reasons why I assume he is so good at magical creatures is because of his size. He is able to care for them even if they become a little unruly, if you will, whereas a non-overlarge wizard wouldn't have that same advantage, so might need to know some spells in order to
Sure.
would he be able to teach that?
That's a good question. I don't know. I hadn't really thought about it.
Theoretically,
So
he could.
Yeah. I mean,
Those
I don't think
who
there's-
can do, those who can't teach.
I mean, I don't really think there'd be any specific care of magical creatures spell, that he would have to teach them. It'd be more of, hey, this would be applying something that you learned in charms, or this is something that you learned
okay.
and you're now applying it from transfiguration, whatever that is. So maybe.
Interdisciplinary studies.
Right. So he doesn't have to be an expert in those things. He has to be aware of them.
And be able to tell them, this is what you can use if.
Right.
Okay, I'll give you that. I do want to disagree with something you said.
Go for it. I dare you.
You called him a non-wizard teacher. I disagree. He is not a fully qualified wizard, but because he was enrolled in Hogwarts as an 11-year-old, I still think that counts him as a wizard because Harry was called a wizard when he was 11.
I agree.
Okay, that's all.
I had shorthanded it for wizard, meaning fully qualified wizard in this case.
I understand. I just like pointing out when you're wrong.
Fine.
I win.
So that wraps us up for the non-spoilery portion of this episode. We are going to, as always, open up our unrestricted section. So if you are a first-time reader and not planning on being spoiled, we do ask that you leave, but we hope to see you again next week, and we will see you then. Everyone else, we will now accept your Gilderoy Lockhart signed permission form. Come on in.
No, we cannot accept anyone. He is no longer a professor.
Still valid as an autograph and acceptable in the unrestricted section.
Only valid for 12 months from date of signature. So if you want to ask Professor Lupin, I wouldn't question that.
All right, Melissa, I see you have a plethora of thoughts over these 5 chapters. So let's start getting into what you came up with here.
Well, as per usual, I have a lot of thoughts. I apologize for my thinking. So the first divination lesson, Ron pulls out the cup. I'm going to pull this up here, see if I can find it. So the first divination lesson, Ron pulls out Harry's cup and starts like divining his thing. And he says, let's see. Oh no, I'm so wrong. Oh, I'm so wrong. I'm so wrong. Wrong. I was going to quote something and it's really Harry saying that to Ron and not Ron saying that to Harry, and I'm wrong. Never mind. I can be wrong now. I was going to say when they talk about, so you're going to suffer, but you'll be very happy. I thought that was Ron saying that to Harry. So it was like, oh, that he was very correct, but that's not true.
There are theories out there.
I did find it.
Okay.
Sorry, go ahead.
And I don't know it well enough to really quote it, so I'll probably cut this out. But that all of the predictions that Ron does have do end up coming true over book 4.
That's what I was going to say. Okay. So Ron pulls out and he says, my turn. Ron peered into Harry's teacup, his forehead wrinkled with effort. There's a blob, a bit like a bowler hat, he said. Maybe you're going to work for the Ministry of Magic. He turned his teacup the other way. But this way it looks more like an acorn. What's that? He scanned his copy of Unfogging the Future. A windfall. Unexpected gold. Excellent, you can lend me some. And there's this thing here. He turned the cup again. That looks like an animal. Yeah, if that was its head, it looks like a hippo and not a sheep. And so he stops there. So there are 2 in here that are both true, I believe. The first is that he's going to end up working for the Ministry of Magic. He does actually end up working for the Ministry of Magic. I mean, it's really far away.
Yeah,
but he does.
And the connection is a bowler hat with Cornelius Fudge, who is no longer minister. I don't know. I see it how it's representative here.
Right. And I'm not saying Ron at all got it was true. I just think it's funny.
Yeah.
The second one is the unexpected windfall of money. I like to think of that as Sirius's gold.
Okay. I actually look at it more like winning the Goblet of Fire.
And
getting those.
Both
I mean,
true.
he gives those away.
But still.
But it was unexpected that he would be in there. It was unexpected that he would win.
See, I went with it was unexpected Sirius would die.
Yeah, I think both are completely valid.
So look at Harry getting a lot of money for bad things, I suppose.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's he's definitely kind of a trust fund jock.
Right. Right. Like he just keeps getting money. Can I be his friend?
Right.
That'd be great.
Yeah. I gotta hang out with Harry.
Right.
Hanging with Harry.
So my next thought is they see Hermione tucking something down like the front of her robes. But would she really be taking her time turner out of the front of her robes at the end of the second hour or at the beginning? So it was like at the end of it as she was coming back. It was like the end of the second time she was putting it away, except that she wouldn't have been then. If that makes sense, I probably need more context.
Yeah, because it doesn't go forward. It wasn't like, oh, she went back and had to go back forward again. I see what you mean. Yeah, I don't think you would need to.
It hit me really funny, and I feel like I probably should have taken more notes on where exactly that happened. But it
happens after Lupin's class. It's in that first chapter. It's in chapter 6.
Then that's not Lupin's class. That's Talons and Tea Leaves. So that's just between divination and maybe it's
on their way to Transfiguration.
Yeah, maybe.
I don't think that's right either. Maybe it's in this chapter 7. Yeah, because it's on the way to the Boggart and the wardrobe. It's between Snape's class and Lupin's class. And she goes up go up the stairs and she's not right behind him.
5 points from Gryffindor because the potion was all right. Why didn't you lie, Hermione? You should have said Neville did it all by himself. Hermione didn't answer. Ron looked around. Where is she? Harry turned too. They were at the top of the steps now, watching the rest of the class pass them, heading for the Great Hall and lunch. She was right behind us, said Ron, frowning. Malfoy passed them, walking between Crabbe and Goyle. He smirked at Harry and disappeared. Oh, there she is, said Harry. Hermione was panting slightly, hurrying up the stairs, one hand clutching her bag, the other seemed to be tucking something down the front of her robes.
Which we're assuming is the time turner, and that's supposed to be an early clue that she is using that. But yeah, if this is after the class that they just doubled up, she wouldn't need to do that.
That's my question.
Or are they going to double up? Is she doubling up the next course?
Right. Like, is she doubling up Transfiguration as in she went to Ancient Runes or something first, flipped that and came back to do divination second in that same hour?
Not divination.
Transfiguration. You're right. I'm sorry.
Defense Against the Dark Arts. Between Snape and Defense Against the Dark Arts with the Boggart and the wardrobe.
Let's start over. I'm so confused.
So
Time travel is timey-wimey confusing.
especially when it's done wrong.
That's true.
It's easier when it at least makes sense. Let's see.
Okay, so we leave potions. We are headed to defense against the dark arts. Hermione is all of a sudden not behind them on the stairs.
Right.
In my assumption, I always assumed she just, in that moment, flipped it and disappeared. That's what I always used to assume. That's why she wasn't there. And then she was catching up after she had.
Right, but she wouldn't be messing with it right then. The only thing I could think of is after potions, she was with them, hurried off to her other class right then without them realizing it.
Yes.
And then this was her returning back after the end of, in her first time through, at the end of, say, arithmetic class, back to the beginning of Defense Against the Dark Arts. So then she would have just appeared at the bottom of the stairs and tucked it in her robes. But it's weird that they didn't realize she was gone. Just the logistics of it is a little odd.
But I think it has to be a little odd because they're trying to keep it quiet, but let us know something's going on.
Right. It has to be somewhat obvious, like enough to be
but
like,
at
well,
the
that
same
was
time,
weird.
she was also just at the bottom of the stairs. So technically, she could have just been down there. Like, it was just odd enough to be odd, but not so out of place.
It's easy enough. It's like muggles looking past magic, choosing not to see.
Yes.
It's easy to choose not to see this if you really wanted to.
I do really like this subplot of Hermione having like this backstory. Because
and doing too much, and it overall ended up wearing on her really badly.
Yes. But, well, to me, this is one of J.K. Rowling's biggest strengths is her ability to write a good mystery.
Mm-hmm.
I do. I think these are just really, really good, well-written children's mysteries to start, really.
Yeah.
But the thing I like is how there's always like extra. So in book 2, it was Percy. Percy was the extra. He was the backstory, the secondary, just keeping you interested.
He and Hagrid, like the red herrings of all that.
I just meant just like Percy had nothing to do with the whole normal story. It was just, oh, he's got a girlfriend.
Right. Okay.
This to me feels like the girlfriend story. It's just this weird little thing going on with Hermione that has absolutely nothing to do with anything else. And yes, they use it later, but it's not like the Scabbers and Crookshanks story, which actually is completely directly related. This is not related at all. This is just, she's just going to more classes and has, control over time.
Yeah, must be nice.
Yeah. I do think, so I'm going to jump to Quidditch because I really enjoy how confident Gryffindor is, and then they lose. I appreciate this.
So I think in one of our previous episodes, we talked about how confident or potentially overconfident they were, and while they're training before the loss. And I think the way I felt on it was at least they're putting in the work. Like you can be as confident as you want and think that that's going to carry you, but they're at least using that as motivation to drive them to work harder and play harder. And I mean, they were crushing. I mean, they were playing pretty well. And it was the rain was tough, but they were doing okay. I think Harry would have had a chance to catch up to, the snitch and caught it before Cedric if the Grim and the Dementors weren't involved. So they could have potentially pulled that out still. But I do think it's good for them to lose because you don't want the first time that Harry wins the Quidditch Cup for them to be just rolling over steamrolling teams. And
it's character building. Losses are good.
Right. And it can, like, as we see in the next couple chapters here, it drives them to work harder still, and keep working harder because they know that they're not out of it because of this one loss, because they were winning before the loss kind of thing, So I like that they take the loss well in time. They take it the right way. They lose well.
Except for Wood, who drowns himself, and I totally appreciate that.
Yeah, but then once he snaps out of it, he's an even better captain, I think.
Agree. Can we spend some time discussing Ron versus Hermione versus Crookshanks versus Scabbers for a little bit? I feel like we got a lot in these chapters on them, and I don't really have any big thoughts. I like that this is our first real conflict between the big three, if you will, since the troll.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I like that. I like that Crookshanks ends up being not the bad guy-ish. I like the idea of Scabbers being planted years ago. I like this whole dynamic.
Yeah, I really like the way the Scabbers plot happened. Like, it's just really interesting that he's just been biding his time. One, just in the safety of a wizarding home, not really like because it's on one side or the other, because I think the Weasleys were somewhat set apart from the beginning. Like, I don't think they were really involved before. And I think it's funny that it all comes back and crashes down on him,
Yeah.
which then he, again, is very opportunistic and finds a way to, in his head, make it work. But it's interesting.
Yeah. And I like the Ron and Hermione fighting. It's the first time we really see
bickering.
The bickering, which never goes away.
Yeah,
ever.
and it's on and off, very frustrating. It does go away, especially when Harry's the odd one out of the threesome.
What I mean is, I don't mean they're always bickering consistently. I'm just saying this is a recurring theme for the rest of their lives.
Oh, yeah.
That's all.
Yeah, I believe that.
I like that. I know a lot of people are like, oh, those two shouldn't have been together or whatever. And I'm like, but I disagree. Like, you're not going to end up with somebody who is, you don't always want everybody to end up with like, oh, the perfect guy but it's just the right person for you in your comfort zone. And that works for both of them. I don't know. I always liked it.
Yeah. And I find it to be really interesting that like Ron he's the one that always notices what's going on with Hermione. Like he's the one that notices, what are you doing with all these books? Like, how'd you get at the bottom of the stairs? Like, what the hell is going on here? And yeah, maybe Harry's just so caught up in like all of people are trying to kill me. Like there's plenty going on for Harry for him to not realize these things. I get that. Ron doesn't have those things. Like his position is to be the one that notices his friends.
He's the perpetual observer.
Right. Yeah. And that's good because it helps ground Harry every once in a while. Be like,
true.
You should realize Hermione's got some weird stuff going on. I don't know what that voodoo juju is, but it's weird, man.
Like it just reminds me of my friends, and we always say like somebody always has to have something bad going on. It just is. And it's always like, I'm really sorry for your bad thing. Or somebody will have a really bad thing going on and I'll have something little happen. I'm like, okay, so I have this and I'm so upset. I get you're winning. Like you're winning. Mm-hmm. Your bad thing is the worst bad thing right now. Harry perpetually wins at the bad things happening. He's just the winner. But it's okay to notice the other littler bad things too. And I think that's Ron's job, is to notice the little bad things that happen here and the little bad things that happen here. And yes, still give Harry, you still win. You are the winner of the bad things.
Right. It's very, Ron grew up with siblings and Harry didn't.
Yeah.
Like Ron is used to having people close and people around and actually caring about people, where Harry's new to that.
Yep.
It's not that he's bad. He's just new. It doesn't come as natural as it does for Ron.
Right.
Because growing up in that environment is different than, oh, I have friends now. Even 2 years in, he's just not going to compete with Ron on being able to notice the people that he actually cares about.
No, I agree. All right.
So another topic on that is Scabbers and Crookshanks.
Yes.
Which I know I mentioned previously. I still have a hard time turning off how much I do not like Crookshanks. I just don't.
I don't understand it. I like Crookshanks, especially like given that he was the one who helped Sirius and he was the one who took the Firebolt order.
Which we don't really see.
I don't care.
I'm not buying it. I don't like Crookshanks. I just don't.
You're in. Okay.
I just don't like cats.
It is not fair to hold it against a fictional,
I don't like this cat even more specifically.
Why?
He's annoying. He's always starting stuff.
With the bad guy who's hiding
we have
in the
no
shape
evidence of wrongdoing.
Except that we're in the unrestricted section, so yeah, we actually do.
We have no evidence that Crookshanks has seen. It's this. My problem is with the retcon of the Kneasel in Fantastic Beasts.
I disagree with you. I don't think it's retcon. I think that was intended.
I don't.
I do.
I think later on it was like, okay, well, how can I justify this more? And that's fair. I don't know.
You can't make this sound as well. No, I disagree with you. I think if she didn't know he was a Kneasel or Kneasel or however you say it, then she wouldn't have known what a Hippogriff was. I think she had these things in place. This was a very magical creature heavy book. Book 3 is, because they have a class called Care of Magical Creatures.
All of Defense Against the Dark Arts has been magical creatures.
That's what I was going to say next. There's a lot to do with animals, with cat, rat, dog, and what's the other one? Cat, rat.
No, that's the chapter. Cat, rat, and dog.
I thought it was 4. It's only 3, cat, rat, and dog.
Cat, rat,
and then there's Moony, Wormtail, Padfoot, and Prong. Like, there's a lot of animal stuff going on in this book in general. So that leads me to believe she intended for him to be an outside-the-box wizarding cat, if you will.
Yeah, I mean, and it was bought from Magical Menagerie, so I get that. I just don't like Crookshanks.
Yes, but you're wrong.
I'm not wrong that I don't like Crookshanks.
You're wrong that it was retconned. I think it was intended.
It's a stretch that I'm saying it's a retcon, but I don't like Crookshanks, which colors my opinion of.
Which, like, if you don't like Crookshanks, what are you, backing Scabbers?
I'm not backing either of them. I think it's just, I don't like the way it plays out. I don't know. I don't know. It's too easy. I don't know that there's somebody that's, Crookshanks has been another thing saying, hey, I don't know. This is a bad guy when the sneakoscope goes off every single time it has a chance to. And I don't know.
But did you, I didn't catch it the first time through that was a bad guy, even though Crookshanks was being a jerk, even though the sneakoscope was going off. I never caught it. Going back now, I'm like, oh my God, this was so brilliant. But I didn't catch it. I think that was there intentionally because it was warning, but it was really subtle.
I know. I just don't like cats.
Ugh. Poor cats. Poor cats everywhere. I'm not asking you to buy a cat. I'm asking you to not hate on one.
Nope.
Fine. Next topic. Let's talk about Lupin. Can we agree that we like Lupin?
Absolutely.
Okay, well then.
One of the best characters in the books. All of the books.
Okay.
He has his down
prepared
spots.
For that.
He has his down spots, but overall, one of the best characters in all of the books.
One of the best, top 5. One of the best top 10. One of the best top 15. I'm gonna need
easily top 10.
Easily top 10?
Yeah.
Harry, Ron, Hermione, Fred, George, Dumbledore, Sirius.
Who else has been such as much of a role model for Harry as him?
I'm not, but then you're discounting all the Weasleys and the Weasley parents.
They're not as good. They're not as good of characters. Some of them are just not as good of characters.
Well, okay, Mr. and Mrs. Weasley though, they're really good.
Sure.
You've got. I have a hard time making that kind of blanket statement.
I mean, I'm not backing it up with actually thinking about it.
For somebody who is not Harry, basically, or Hermione or Ron. Ginny, I'm not disagreeing.
I'm not going to back it up with any kind
you.
of facts or even think about it. You can be upset because I threw it out there.
No, I'm not upset. I'm more saying I am not ready to make that kind of blanket statement because I feel like not even being a third of the way through the series yet, I don't think I have enough belief. I love Lupin. He's a great character. He is definitely on, if I had to make one of those ranking scales of good to bad, he'd definitely be on the good side. But to say he's one of the best, I don't know. And then book 7, Lupin has issues.
Oh yeah, he's trash then.
Yeah, right.
Parts of it at least. But so was Ron at times. So was Harry at times. So was Hermione at times. So is Dumbledore, potentially overall. It depends on how you look at it. We're not going to get into that discussion. I agree with you. But you could make the case that he's a terrible person.
Yeah, he has terrible
Snape,
people moments.
Garbage. I will never be okay with Snape.
Are you ready? McGonagall.
One of the top 3 characters in the books.
Okay, see, you can't forget about her. She's better than Lupin.
She's one of the top 3 characters in all of the books.
And the other two being what? Dumbledore and Harry?
Probably. I think that's a pretty solid 1, 2, 3.
And I'm going to say something. I don't even know if Dumbledore would be in my top 3. I think Hermione does more for Harry than Dumbledore does. So I'm a bigger fan of her. But that's, again, a discussion from years from now.
Yeah, we got time.
However, we can agree that McGonagall, top 2, top 3. There might be one higher, but really,
yeah,
McGonagall. Okay, so she is a character without many flaws.
I agree. Yeah.
Done. We have found the perfect character.
I think it's because we really like the sternness too. We appreciate that side of her.
Because it's done with purpose.
Right.
Okay, so we're going to get back to our conversation about Lupin,
so
which is where this started.
Anyway.
So did you notice that he very easily blows through the lie of, I was feeling a bit off color. And that's why he needed that special potion from Snape, the smoking potion. So do you think that he said that? I mean, we obviously know he's trying to hide the werewolf factor, but do you think he says that so easily and so naturally because he's trying to avoid anyone at Hogwarts knowing he's a werewolf, or because he is been lying so long about being a werewolf that it's just sort of natural to keep that hidden?
I don't really think it's different. I think I think it's yes to both, honestly. I think he's very used to hiding that information, so I guess if I had to say, I would say it's more that he's more just used to putting it off in general, but I think he's very aware of his current situation that he can't slip up even more so than usual, if that's fair.
That does. Because
so I think it's definitely both.
I would say my first thought was, no, it's just a natural state of lying. I was off color and it's good and I've got it. No big deal. But I agree with you that he needs to be more on point at Hogwarts than he might need to be in outside life.
Right.
But I really tend to think like this is just how he functions in the world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I definitely err on
Yeah.
the side of that. It's just natural to him now, but I do think he's very on point, so especially with his current position and with who he's specifically talking to right now.
True.
One of his best friend's kids,
Who doesn't know that he was one of the best friends. Who
right.
doesn't know-
And he somewhat leans towards things, but yeah, I think it's fair.
Do you notice that he needed to take the potion on Halloween on October 31st?
Mm-hmm.
Do you really think there was a full moon then?
Funny you should ask.
Excellent. Did you notice that that's Halloween having a
You
full
actually
moon?
scroll over.
I noticed you had something in here. Can you explain what this is? Oh, wow. That was... Oh my God, that was the scariest chuckle you have in the whole world. What is going on with your voice?
Oh boy.
Wow, that was special. All right, please explain this picture.
Well, this is the lunar calendar from 1993, October. So it looks like we have a full moon on the 30th of September, and we have a full moon on October 31st as
Which is
well.
a Sunday.
The 30th and the 31st. So the chances that it was a full moon that night in the books, pretty much 100%.
That's kind of awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a Sunday and not a Saturday, but it's still the weekend, so forgivable.
Yeah, I didn't go back and check, which I'll do it right now, when the full moon was before they were on the train. So that date would have been...
It's the 1st.
Right.
September the 1st. No, that's October the 1st. Sorry. Ooh, that's a good question. So maybe it was the day before. Oh, that's interesting.
Full moon on the 1st and the 2nd
Of September.
of September 1993.
Hmm.
But it's only at night that he transforms. So
Yes, but he was at the feast.
maybe the moon wasn't out yet.
Possibly.
Which leads me into a question about werewolves in general.
Yeah.
There are a lot of times where the moon's up during the day. Full moons during the day. Is it just when the moon is, in sight? If is it behind clouds? Does that count?
I know this.
Okay. It depends on your which mythology you're pulling from.
No.
It depends.
I just taught this.
Okay.
So, science.
You taught werewolfology?
I taught moon phases.
Okay.
So it is only the werewolves only change in the full moon. That is the general idea.
In light of the full moon.
In the actual light of the full moon.
That's what I think it should be, because it comes out behind clouds sometimes.
See, and I always
That's always the imagery. It's coming out behind the clouds, and that's when Lupin turns, or that's when...
Yeah, that's a movie. I tend to believe that they turn because otherwise they would just stay inside. See, I don't think that works. I think it's when the full moon is out.
So above the horizon?
Above the horizon, moonrise to moonset, which always happens in the western side of the horizon. Like if you're looking south, the full moon will always be in the west.
Okay.
Here's why. Because the reason we have moon cycles is because of the placement of the moon in comparison to the sun, right? And so what we see in the moon phases is how much light we're getting.
Right. The reflected light off of the moon.
Right. I believe, see if I do this correctly, the new moon happens when the sunlight
Is on the backside.
is on the backside.
So when we
which
see it
means
during
the-
light time,
Well, so
when the sun... Yeah. Go ahead, sorry.
Thank you. So when it's new moon, the moon is closer to the sun. So that's why we don't see any sunlight, because the moon is closer to the sun in the east. The new moon is always in the east. If you're looking south, the new moon's always in the east. The quarter moons are always at it was 12 o'clock straight south. Does that make sense? So if I'm looking south, the new moon will always kind of be over on my east, on my left. The quarter moon
It
will
tracks
just sort of live.
across.
Not most of the time.
Every
it'll stay
night.
there.
It tracks across.
But it tracks across from that spot. It won't track all the way from east to west. It'll just be in that space.
I don't know.
I just did a whole thing. Yeah.
I'm a very visual person, so we'll
get there. Here's what I will do. I will try to find my mystery science video that I taught. Of course, you need a teacher login, but I will try to maybe screenshot something and then tag Mystery Doug in it, because it was really good. Because it's not something I had ever thought of, that it's the new moon because it's closer to the sun over there in that eastern side. And then the full moon is always in the west, kind of far away, and it just lives over there. Especially if you're looking at the same, in the same time of day, it'll be on this side, on the east if it's new, in the west. So maybe that has nothing to do with what you asked. But I had a whole thought. Now I've lost it. Never mind.
So in this
I'm
discussion,
off.
I think the problem is that when we see a full circular moon. When the sun is out, that's technically a new moon because there's not sunlight on it.
Yes. So but my point is, I think you only have the full moon when it's over in the western side of the sky. I don't know why.
That doesn't make any sense.
I know.
Because it follows the ecliptic every single night. It covers the full range. It's not like it just hangs out on one side. The sun, it depends if the sun is east or west of, that's what matters. It depends if the sun is east or west of the moon position. Because as the earth is spinning, you're going to get the horizon hitting the sun differently and putting a different shadow on the moon.
Sorry, I'm trying to find this thing. Because it made sense when I was watching it that answers that question, but I cannot find it for the life of me.
We'll find it later.
Okay, what's next?
We'll cut most of that.
Yeah, no, it's got to go. That was crap. All right. Sorry, let me find my notes.
So I definitely thought it was really neat that it was a full moon on July 3rd or on October 31st this year. It's worked out well. It's 2 for 2 on the 2 times that she's mentioned it.
I'm glad that she's getting something right on the calendar.
Yeah.
Which has always been a concern of mine.
Yeah, and I think it's probably been closer. We haven't back-checked everything. You know, there's been a couple early on where you say a specific day of the week and a date. Like, that's got to line up. Like,
no, we've looked up a couple.
I know, and that's what it's like. Those early on were off.
Yes.
And those have to be right. Like, come on. Like...
Right, we all have calendars.
Right. But it seems like things like this, you know, and maybe book 2, things started cleaning up a bit. It was definitely more book 1 that we saw more issues, I think.
My issue is always September 1st.
Right. The school year starting.
I always have trouble with that.
Get over it.
I'm not complaining. I'm just telling you that's where my calendar problems come from. All right, I'm okay. I do like that Sirius uses Halloween to attack the fat lady. Speaking of Halloween, of course he attacks on Halloween. He doesn't want kids to be in there. He doesn't want there to be any possible children around. And he knows and like, it's hard to know when there will or won't be, but Halloween feast?
No one's going to be there.
That's perfect
time. But why does he think that Scabbers would be there? You know, like that's like, I guess it's a chance. You know, you got to at least try for it, right?
Well, especially if you know that he's in form of the rat, which I'm sure Sirius is assuming.
Oh, yeah.
Like, yeah, let's go look. That's where I'd be.
Yeah. I mean, at minimum, it's a safe way to at least, take a gamble.
Yep.
And if he's not there, okay, well, he's with, you know, the Weasley boy or whatever. That's all I can gather. But at least I took the chance where no kids were going to be involved. And so pretty smart guy.
Really, most of my thoughts are Halloween. So my next Halloween thought is we've got the Gryffindors and soon the whole castle doing a camp out in our plushy, soon to be purchasable, purple, sparkly sleeping bags.
Right.
You want to know what really struck me about that whole scene?
What was that?
Percy.
Yeah.
This was the first time that I really saw Percy putting that power and that quest for power over like the well-being of others and family.
Okay. How so?
Okay. So before we saw him kind of as an older student, but really this time, the way he's using his head boy power in the Great Hall, deciding when the lights go off, deciding who is, you know, you have to go to sleep now, and then putting himself in the conversation between Snape and Dumbledore. And especially then when he's excited about, oh, well, the Dementors want to come look. Why don't you let the Dementors come look? Without any sort of concern about how that would affect the hundreds of people in there. Just, nope, let him come in. We got to get the bed. And I think he was so excited to be in the know and in the big conversation that he didn't take the step back to think, but how does this affect others? Which is kind of Dumbledore's point. Like, okay, no. But I think that was that glimmer of power over people, I suppose.
Yeah, no, I really hadn't ever thought of it that way, but I agree. We've seen him kind of take, you know, opportunities before. We've seen him, you know, take command in certain times where, you kidding me?
Do you want me to get that?
Yeah.
Don't eat sweatshirts. Cut.
We've definitely seen him take command in certain areas. Oh, you know, first years follow me, and, you know, hey, I'm head boy, and like, hey, these are things that I get to do. But this is definitely the first time we've seen him kind of take a stance on something almost. And it's definitely kind of an offhand comment of, we have all these Dementors, why, let's put them on the case. Like, that's the rational thing to do. We have the people who are searching for Sirius Black. Let's go have them do their thing. So, like, to me, it's probably a more common thought that would happen. But I could definitely see how it's easily viewed as this is the first time. And I like the way you said it. He's choosing power over people because he's not thinking about the person who would be affected by this. He's thinking about, okay, well, this is a way to solve this problem regardless of what it does to anybody else in the way.
I agree. And I just wonder because, and I could be projecting on Percy, would he think, oh, and if he found him with the Dementors, that was my idea. I see that in him, and I know it's not explicitly stated, but I see that sort of self-serving, ooh, here's my idea, ooh, I can help, and oh, I can.
Yeah, that's really, I really never thought about that way. I can definitely see it spun in that light, for sure. I'm not saying I agree or disagree, but I definitely think that you can look at it that way and justify it easily.
And I'm not saying that it is for real, and that was the intention, but looking at who Percy becomes.
Right.
I definitely can see seedlings.
Glimmers.
Yes.
Yeah, no, I hear you.
Okay, this is a half-formed thought, and go with me on this. What is the difference between Dementors being able to more thoroughly attack people who have terrors in their life versus the ability to see a thestral?
That's really funny that you have this note. This is one of the few things that I thought about in these sections when I listened back today. I was like, so Harry has this mega trauma early in life that torments him when he is near Dementors.
Yes.
Yet he is unable to see thestrals because he has not emotionally rationalized what the loss of his parents were. I don't like it. It doesn't line up. That's funny. You look. I don't think you thought that I'd be impressed by this, but this is exactly what I had a problem with in these chapters. It makes I'm with you.
It's driving me crazy.
Yeah, I don't think you can have that mega trauma
that involves death.
That involves death and affects you personally, and still not be able to see thestrals. It's definitely a miss. It's a swing and a miss.
I mean,
and I'm not trying to harp so hard on JK. I do love everything that she does.
It's the nitpicky things.
It's the nitpicky things, and that's why we're here.
I think about Ginny on the train. Ginny was affected a lot by the Dementors more than anyone else in the compartment besides Harry.
And because a little bit Neville. He was the only other one that we had any indication.
But she had the bigger trauma in her life. As does Neville have a bigger trauma.
That's what I was going to say.
Except that he wasn't a witness. Like, Neville didn't witness what happened to his parents, but he had this, the ACEs score, adverse childhood. There's a thing. It's ACEs. It's adverse child something score. And so for every one of those you have, like the more ACEs you have, the more childhood trauma you have, right? So he has the loss of his parent. Harry has loss of his parent and abuse because of it and abuse. So, right. And Harry was present for his parents' murder. Mm-hmm. Ginny didn't see a murder, but she had a direct abuse attack on her. So I feel like her abuse is a little more, not that I'm comparing abuses, but her abuse affects her a little more than Neville's because it was something that happened to her as opposed to just something that impacted her childhood.
It's one personal step closer. I mean, if it happens to you, that's a little bit closer than it happens to someone that you care about.
And then impacts your life, which is what I think happens to Neville. Whereas Harry has all of those things. Happened to you, happened to his parents, impacted his life, all those things. So I can see why Ginny wouldn't see a thestral because hers didn't involve death specifically. Neville's.
Adverse childhood experience.
Thank you. I couldn't think of the E. Neville didn't have a death that he was, present for. Harry did. Mm-hmm. And Luna was always able to see the thestrals because, my mom died. So did Harry's. Mm-hmm. And granted, she was a little older, but still, Harry should be able to see thestrals.
Yeah.
This is my end goal.
And he was 15 months old is how old he was on October 31st.
Exactly, 15 months old.
I remember when my son was 12 months old. 14 months. They can think pretty well. They recognize people.
They say words. They say your name.
They're walking. They're starting to blubber around, talk a little bit here and there. And I just think it's a little bit of a calendar off, not quite having the age thing set. And maybe you could justify it that, just because Harry was in the room doesn't mean he actually saw what happened. He could have been being a little kid, looking at anything else. I mean, he sees the green light. It doesn't mean that he sees the light leave Lily's eyes necessarily. It depends on what that has to look like. Okay. Just being in the same room doesn't mean you see it.
Yeah, I agree.
Necessarily. So it just depends on how that piece works. I'm with you. I have problems with it.
You're trying to justify it.
But I can see.
I don't want to justify it. I just want it to be wrong.
I can see how it can still work, but
all right.
And then later on, he very, very visibly witnesses Cedric.
Yeah,
it could be a little bit more
present,
explicitly. That person is dying in front of me. Understanding it in the moment,
cognitively aware.
Exactly.
I still think it's crap.
I just think it's really funny that you had that, what's the difference between, seeing a thestral and how Dementors affect you, especially when they're potentially the same exact thing.
Right. Okay, so I have one last thought.
Okay.
It's not nearly as depressing.
Okay. Go on a light note here.
Fred and George. The quote says that the Marauders Map has taught them more than any of the teachers in the school. Do you believe that?
For them, yeah. Being able to get around and learn secrets and learn how to think the way the Hogwarts castle does. I think it's exactly the type of learning that they would benefit most from. Because Hogwarts is full of tricks. It's a living character. You know, it has its own secrets, and them being taught how to find secrets and experience secrets and tricks and things, I think it makes a lot of sense as to their development, as to who they have become and who they do become.
I have a hard time saying that was still better than McGonagall.
I don't think they would have learned much from Mcgonagall. It's not a reflection of her, it's a reflection of their attention.
Okay.
I don't think they're interested in that.
You know what? As a teacher, I can absolutely relate to that.
Yeah, a motivated learner is going to go what they're most motivated at.
True.
They're
Okay.
motivated in learning
All right.
the things that they learn from the castle.
All right, then I'm with you.
So that's how I see it, at least.
Nope. Good.
All right, so one of my two thoughts, we'll get the silly one out of the way. The Mobiliarbus charm.
It's even hard to say.
Mobiliarbus.
There's a... Okay, yeah, okay.
Hermione uses this to move the little tree, shrub, bush in front of their
Thingy.
table at the Three Broomsticks so that the teacher's table do not see Harry and Ron and Hermione sitting there.
Yes, because that's so effective. Go on.
Like, why did it need its own charm? Like, why not just use Wingardium Leviosa? Like, what's the difference between this one and Wingardium Leviosa? Like,
Ooh, good question.
it's the same thing. It just says it lifted off the ground and shifted over. Maybe it's doing something different, and this is just an odd usage of it. Maybe Wingardium Leviosa does, like, too much. I don't know.
Maybe that's more of a floating charm and not a specific move you hear charm.
I don't know. I just, reading it, I was like, I get you want to come, like, it's a cool word. Did you need it?
Okay. So my only way to sort of justify this, and I'm going to use teacher language, and that makes me annoyed. Like, I'm already annoyed with myself for this thought, so I apologize in advance. There are things, a lot of the times when we teach off of certain standards. And every content area has a large amount of standards, but they're divided between, not just in different, units, but also in priority standards and then supplementary standards. So if you think of it as, if I have to have my kids have to have the ability to solve multi-step word problems using the 4 operations and all rational numbers.
Mm-hmm.
That is a very big standard, which means they have to be able to read word problems. They have to be able to do multi-step. They have to be able to convert measurements. They have to be able to add, subtract, multiply, and divide whole numbers, fractions, and decimals. They have to be able to do all those things. But at some point, I'm going to need to spend time just on the supplementary standard of how do I add decimals, right? And then at a different time, I have to spend some time on how do I multiply fractions, so that eventually we can get to the point where they put it all together and they're reading word problems and they can just know to do something.
Mm-hmm.
What if Wingardium Leviosa is the supplementary standard that leads to the priority standard of the Mobiliaris? So, and I'm going to say it wrong, but the Wingardium Leviosa is the how do I get things up charm, and the one that Hermione uses is the, okay, I got it up. I had a point of direction I wanted it to move to, and I was able to set it down. Because the only time we really see Wingardium Leviosa is in year 1. It gets things up. And the only time we ever see something come down is when Ron just kind of lets go and it drops the club onto the troll's head.
This is well stated.
Okay.
I agree that Mobiliarbus is probably the more advanced version. And it's just really funny that Wingardium Leviosa has become such a famous one because of how big of a role it played in book 1 and movie 1. You know, it's one of those terms that people just use. And we never, like you said, we never saw it do anything other than levitation.
Right.
It's not necessarily a vector. It doesn't have magnitude and direction. It just has magnitude.
Yes.
And I think that's very, very well stated. And we could not sound nerdier right now, but that is okay.
And the other thing to think about is this was 2 years ago. And it was one of the first things I learned in their first year. It's like when I first introduced fractions in 3rd grade, it's really like, here's a bar, divide it into 4 and shade 3. What fraction is that? By 5th grade, they're multiplying fractions. Mm-hmm. 3rd graders cannot comprehend that. They're not ready. So what do? You can't just say, oh, well, you're not ready for this, so you're not going to do it yet. You have to give them a foundation. Right. Wingardium Leviosa is a foundation.
And I really just brought this up as a bit of a joke to talk about. And the main, I'm not against there being multiple ways to solve the same problem.
Also true.
That's the other thing I wanted to get as, just because saying what Wingardium Leviosa does, you can move it around. You can give it motion as well.
Which is exactly what I thought until I came up with this new theory.
Right, I know.
3 minutes ago.
So I'm saying, assume
Yes.
That they're equal.
Yes.
They're synonyms, basically. Magical synonyms here.
Yes.
And if you're trying to subtly move something without someone hearing you, Meliarbus is going to be easier to do than Wingardium Leviosa.
Well, plus...
it's just shorter. It's a little quieter, I think.
And maybe it then leads to the idea of the nonverbal charm.
Right. So this is like the intermediate version. Yeah. I don't know. It was just interesting that I saw that it was like, my initial thought was like, but why? And then I was like, let's see where we go with this, because I think we can hit on some
here
good
to
points
help.
here. So my only other thought on this section, Fidelius charm.
Yeah.
Magical secret keepers.
Yeah.
We know for Grimmauld Place, Dumbledore was the secret keeper.
Truth.
Because when he died, the Fidelius charm was broken. Well, they all became secret keepers. Everyone
But there
who knew
was
the
so
secret,
many of them
that it was unstable,
Right.
basically. So, and we saw Dumbledore in Grimmauld Place a couple times.
True.
We never talked to him, but he was in the house. He didn't reside there permanently. My question is, why would James or Lily not become their own secret keeper? Why would anyone decide to entrust somebody else with the secret of their own mortality secret?
Well, and we actually see in book 7 that Bill is...
And he lives there at
Shell
Cottage.
Cottages.
Absolutely.
And that Arthur Weasley is for where the rest of the Weasleys are. And I have never had a problem with this. Even now I don't, because I think of it as that no matter how long magic has been around and no matter how old this community is, there is always updates and advancements and new discoveries. And I feel like after James and Lily Potter, that was a moment in the wizarding community where they realized maybe we need to try something else with this charm. I do. I really think that might have been because it was huge and it was famous and it was well known that maybe up until this point, there had never been such quite blatant, what's the word I'm looking for?
Witch hunting?
No, there had been blatant witch hunting. That's the 1600s.
Not necessarily by another wizard, though.
I was thinking more like, and we don't know that. We don't know about the other dark wizards before that. I mean, the word I'm looking for is like treachery, but it's not really treachery. Like Benedict Arnoldness.
Traitor?
That's the word. Like blatant traitor of our own kind, of our own, because
betrayal.
Yeah, that's the word. See, me and the words. So such betrayal of somebody so trusted. So maybe that was the first time that it was so widely realized. Because they all thought it was Sirius Black, who then ended up in Azkaban. And really, other people could be using more people for Fidelius. It could just be this.
So
group.
regardless of who it actually was, either Peter Pettigrew or Black, the overall story is the same. The sentiment is the same. So I just have a hard time thinking this was the first time someone was like, oh, why can't I just be a secret keeper for myself? That would be like the only way I would do it.
But you also have the benefit of hindsight and Monday morning quarterbacking to be able to say, oh, well, I would have done this differently.
If I was asking someone to keep a secret to protect something, I would want to keep the secret if it's to protect myself.
But if nobody thought about the fact that this charm was
ridiculous
done,
to me.
I'm just saying this particular charm was meant to keep it in somebody else. Like I'm putting all of my trust in you. And I wonder if they just didn't realize that they could just do it themselves. I really think that might have been it. Like they just didn't realize they could do that. And then once it became a problem that they couldn't trust the other person, then they were like, okay, now we got to figure this out.
We'll have to agree to disagree then.
I don't think we're disagreeing. I think it's more just, you're like, I would have already thought about it. And I'm saying, well, maybe not if it had never happened. It would have just been, I can just trust
to
you.
me, that seems the only logical way to use it. Why would you trust somebody else on something that important?
Because
I just have a hard time thinking, well, why can't I just try this on myself first?
See, and I'm thinking like era and time frame. No, nowadays, nobody ever trusts each other. But you're talking in the 1970s, kids ran outside all day and you never saw them. I do. I think it's just a lot of culture and time frame.
This isn't the first time anyone's ever hid from somebody.
But it might be the first time that they were so blatantly betrayed by the person who was supposed to be helping them.
I have a hard time with that. I have a hard time seeing that.
And I don't. I mean, I would do it now in a heartbeat. No way I'm telling anybody else. But before this, that wasn't a problem. You have somebody you trust.
Why? I trust myself. And if I'm holding the secret, no one can get to it.
You were raised in the culture of
I'm also protecting the opportunity for the secret to even be taken. There's no way of getting to it. It's a double blind. It's a double cover. I have no way of justifying that wouldn't be the first thought on using that. I just don't see it. And I get the hindsight thing.
And I think it just didn't occur to them. I really do. I think it was, this charm is meant to like contain the secret in another soul, not your soul, another soul. And I just don't think they realized that it could be yours. I think it was with the intention of you're putting your trust in that it wouldn't work until you put your trust in someone else, that somebody had to know it for it to be effective, which was kind of my spin on it when I heard that Bill and Arthur were their own. I'm like, wait, hold on. You're supposed to be trusting someone else unless like it was miswritten and really Arthur was Bill's and Bill was Arthur's, which would work with my version of it.
Something you had just said kind of spurred a little spark.
Yeah, I saw you.
And because you said basically placing your secret in someone else's soul.
Yeah.
I wonder, and I know it's easy to fall into Horcrux talk
Not going
with that, but I'm going to touch on it just in the fact that since it is a magically binded thing, and say it is to Peter Pettigrew's soul, does he have a broken soul or, somehow damaged at that point?
Oh, I definitely think his soul is damaged. I don't know if it's from that.
Yeah, it was just an interesting thought. Like, if it is a magical binding to his soul, that, hey, if you break this...
Is there a consequence for him?
Right. Which makes me think there's almost some kind of potential tie to Voldemort after that. Like, since he broke the Fidelius charm to Voldemort, if that somehow obligates him with Voldemort in future. I don't know.
See, I almost feel like that's part of the trust. Like, there's just no consequence. You just have to trust them.
Yeah, I mean, and that's really what I think. I'm trying to go down a UFOs, a conspiracy theory.
No, Mulder.
No, not this time.
Mm-mm.
I'll work on it.
No, try again. Not today. Today is not that day.
Thanks, Aragorn.
There you go. Was it Aragorn or was it?
Today is not that day.
That.
Yeah, maybe you were referencing a different version of that, but that's the Gates of Mordor.
I was not doing the Gates of Mordor. I was doing Gondor with King. What's his face from
Theoden King?
Yeah, but no, you're right. It's
the Gates. It's the Black Gate.
Maybe I should watch that.
I've been watching the commentaries of the extended version.
Those are so good.
I just got halfway through the first disc of the cast, and then I restarted the first disc with the writers and director. So I'm just gonna go through all of them because there's like 6 versions, 6 comments. I'm gonna go through all of them, each disc, and then go to the next disc.
I've done that.
Yeah, it's been a while. It's been a while. I think we did that together in like 2003
when they first came out.
Yeah, when you first got the extended versions
of Return of the King.
Yeah, in this house we watched them over and over and over.
Back when this used to be my house.
Yeah, good times. Those were good times. It was a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun over here.
Excellent. And stay tuned, folks, in 4 years when we visit.
I can't wait. It's the best. I think it still is the best.
I do. I think Lord of the Rings is like the ultimate fantasy fandom.
Game of Thrones, I love it. It's incredible.
It's fine.
It's deep in its own completely different ways.
And Harry Potter, I love. Obviously, we started here.
Lord of the Rings, though, I don't know. It's just got something else to it.
Dun, 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 dun. 4 years. We're going to need a not named or a podcast that name.
I thought we had it.
I don't remember.
Podcast that shall not pass. Even though in the books it's you cannot pass. So that's why I have a problem with that one.
Okay, so it can't be that one.
I know. That's why I'm like, it would be easily. But then it's also like, oh, can't pass a class. Like,
no.
Yeah, that rides for Gondor.
I don't ride for Gondor.
We got time.
Can we close out this episode and then ponder our next podcast 4 years from now? Hey, guess what?
What?
We're done.
We are finished.
We are not quite halfway through the 3rd book, which is not quite a third of the way through the series.
That's book wise, not page wise.
Truth.
It's a lot less than that.
All right. So ladies and gentlemen, we're going to be around for about 4 more years, but not today. So if you would like to continue talking to us until next time, which is a week from now, your best bet for contacting us is through Twitter at @NotNamedPodcast. We have a website where you can find us and all of our shows, current and upcoming, called thepodcastthat.com. There is also an email that you can email us, which is also called The Podcast That. Only this is at gmail.com.
Subscribe and rate us on iTunes. Leave us comments there. Same thing on YouTube. Your comments, we read them all. We really appreciate it. The 5 stars go a long way to getting us more exposure. Tell your friends. We would really appreciate that as well.
Please join us next week when we discuss chapter number 11.
The Firebolt. Stay imaginary.
Thank you.
Special thanks to... Oh, no, never mind.
There's no
Sorry.
special
I
thanks
was
today.
like, we wouldn't have missed
Special
that.
thanks to me for giving a summary of 5 chapters.
Special thanks to me for doing all of the behind-the-scenes work.
And special thanks to you for listening.
That was actually pretty funny.
Maybe that needs to be our shout out.
And thanks to you for listening.
There's our shout out
That
to
was
the
pretty
listeners.
funny.
That's really great.